In royal life, the most damaging stories are not always the loudest ones. Sometimes the problem is not a shouting match, a documentary, a memoir, or a courtroom speech. Sometimes it is one small sentence at a dinner party, passed from one table to one magazine, and suddenly everyone understands why the palace is nervous. That is what made Martha Stewart's comment about Meghan Markle so sharp. It was not a full attack, not a long accusation, and not even the answer to a question about royal gossip. It came inside a lifestyle interview in People magazine of all places, while Martha was talking about what she is like at parties. She said she had been at a California dinner with Meghan, that Meghan had recently returned from seeing the King, and that Martha knew Meghan was talking about it. That was enough. It was enough because the whole fragile idea of a Sussex royal reunion depends on discretion. King Charles can meet his grandchildren privately.
This is as delicious as a bowl of Martha Stewart's one-pot pasta. Yes, the lifestyle genius has just scored the ultimate revenge on a certain Meghan Markle, her long-time, shall we say, frenemy, brutally exposing her, ironically, via the Sussex propaganda organ People magazine, as being a big fat gossip of breaking all of those private agreements that Prince Harry had made with King Charles.
Harry and Meghan can say they want to rebuild trust. Sources can insist that family contact is healing, but if a private royal visit becomes dinner table currency in California, even indirectly, then the palace has a problem. The issue is not whether every detail of Martha's account is beyond dispute. People later reported that a source at the dinner said the account was not accurate and that Meghan had only said the family had a good time. That denial matters. But the public reaction matters too, because it shows how little trust now surrounds the Sussexes. A tiny comment became a major story because people already believed it could be true. That is the real power of the Martha Stewart moment. Martha did not need to call Meghan a gossip columnist or announce some secret transcript of the evening. She simply presented herself as an observer. And because Martha Stewart is not just another celebrity, the observation carried weight. She is an American lifestyle institution. Cooking, homemaking, entertaining, business, branding, publishing, television, scandal, prison, comeback.
Trusted. So all of this developed quite subtly, okay? Martha Stewart was recreating that iconic People magazine cover to mark her 85th birthday. There they are side by side. And she was asked, and what's very critical to note about this is that People magazine is pro Meghan and Harry. They didn't ask her about Meghan and Harry. Martha knew exactly what she was doing because the question was very simple. What do you like at a party? That was it. And Martha answers.
And reinvention all in one person. She understands better than almost anyone that a public image is built on competence as much as attention. She also understands the social codes around high-status rooms. Martha has been in rooms with billionaires, politicians, media executives, film stars, and royals. She met King Charles at the King's Trust Global Gala in New York in April 2026. She is not a random influencer trying to use Meghan's name for a little online heat. So when Martha remarks that Meghan's move from actress to duchess to homemaking television figure does not quite follow, it lands because she is speaking from the territory Meghan is trying to enter. Martha is not just commenting on royal drama, she is guarding the gate to lifestyle authority. That is why the one-pan pasta detail became such a perfect symbol. Martha's website describes her one-pan pasta as the original and best, and the technique has been associated with her brand for years.
My friends call me LIFO. Last in, first out. I don't like cocktail parties terribly much. I don't like standing around. If it's a dinner, I like to get there when people are about to sit down, and then I like to leave shortly after dessert is served. But I have a good time while I'm there. I had dinner with Meghan Markle the other night. We were both guests at a dinner party in California, and she had just gotten back from the palace. I didn't talk to her really more than to say a couple of words. But I know she was talking about it.
When Meghan's lifestyle show entered similar culinary territory, critics immediately saw it as another example of Meghan trying to step into someone else's established lane without quite earning the authority that lane requires. It may seem trivial to argue about pasta, but in branding, trivial things are rarely trivial. A pasta recipe is not only a recipe when the person making it is selling a domestic identity. It becomes evidence of taste, knowledge, originality, and credibility. Martha's brand says, I know this world because I built it. Meghan's brand says, I can enter this world because my life looks aspirational. Those are not the same claim. One is based on decades of demonstrated expertise. The other depends heavily on aura. And aura is fragile when people start asking what is underneath it. The People interview made that tension unavoidable.
Then People asks her, what do you think about her stepping into your space with her own cooking show? And Martha replied, if you're an actress, it's hard to then transition to a princess and then from a princess into a homemaking guru on a television show. It doesn't sort of follow. So go from there. Now, we all know what Martha Stewart is saying. We all know what Martha Stewart is doing. Martha is a royal favourite, by the way. She met up with King Charles during his recent visit to New York.
Martha was asked what she is like at a party. She gave a classic Martha answer. She arrives for the seated part, enjoys herself, and leaves soon after dessert. Then she slipped in the Meghan anecdote. It was almost too neat, because the whole comment was about the etiquette of gatherings. Who talks, who listens, who stays too long, who knows when to leave, who understands the room. In old aristocratic culture, the highest compliment is not that you are interesting, it is that you are safe. Safe to seat beside someone important, safe to invite again. Safe not to repeat what should remain inside the room. That code can sound snobbish, but it exists for a reason. Powerful people cannot relax if every remark may become tomorrow's headline. Royals depend on that code more than most because the monarchy survives through carefully managed silence. People can meet the king and not describe it. People can sit near the Prince and Princess of Wales and not dine out on what was said.
And she does remain utterly seething about the fact that Meghan stole her one-pot pasta recipe, so much so that on her website, she updated the description to say, the original and the best. But as the Royal News Network pointed out, you can only keep confidence as if you don't tell other people. That Meghan was apparently gabbing about her recent visit to the UK seems to show that she still can't keep confidences.
People can be present in a room without turning the room into content. That is where the Sussexes are trapped between two worlds. In Hollywood and influencer culture, a private experience often becomes valuable because it can be shared. A dinner is content. A family trip is content. A birthday is content. A candle can be content. A kitchen clip can be content. Even proximity to someone else powerful can become a form of social proof. In royal culture, the opposite is true. The more important the room, the less you say about it afterward. That is not simply old-fashioned restraint. It is a survival mechanism. A constitutional monarchy cannot function if every private family conversation is treated like raw material for brand repair. King Charles is both a father and a sovereign. If he opens the door to Harry, Meghan, Archie, and Lilibet, he is not only hosting relatives, he is risking the public meaning.
And Tom Sykes of The Royalist said that in this interview, he agrees with me, Martha Stewart was showing off her knife skills and Meghan is the onion. He wrote, consider the mechanics. Martha, by her own account, exchanged barely a couple of words with Meghan and still came away knowing she was discussing her meeting with the king. That fact travelled across a dinner party, into Martha's ear, and out onto the pages of People magazine, which may explain a certain nervousness in royal circles because it raises the obvious question
of that meeting. Did it signal reconciliation? Did it include conditions? Was William involved? Was Camilla there as witness? Were photos requested? Were sensitive subjects off the table? Every answer can become a weapon if trust is absent. That is why privacy around the Highgrove meeting mattered so much. The July 2026 Highgrove visit was significant because it marked the first time King Charles had seen Archie and Lilibet in person for years. Reports said Harry, Meghan, and the children were hosted at the King's private residence, with Queen Camilla also present. The palace did not release photographs or detailed accounts. That silence was part of the message. Charles wanted family contact, but he did not want a public production. The reunion was meant to be personal, not a Sussex relaunch. And yet the moment quickly became surrounded by briefing, speculation, and interpretation. Was this a genuine thaw? Was it driven by Charles's health?
So, it is also a neat illustration, Sykes writes, of why the palace has been so reticent about these reunions. The two camps now inhabit different worlds with different rules. In the circles that Windsor's move, and nobody at a British dinner party would dream of relaying to a magazine what William or Kate had been discussing at the table. It simply isn't done. Catherine, by the way, Tom. In Montecito, table talk is a renewable resource. I'm quite sure Martha doesn't think she did anything wrong, and
Harry seeking a path back toward royal relevance. Was Meghan included for family unity or optics? Was William furious or simply distant? Even before Martha Stewart entered the story, the meeting was already more fragile than warm. It required careful handling. So when Martha said Meghan had been talking about her recent royal visit at a dinner in California, the story struck the exact nerve Buckingham Palace would have feared. There is another small detail that matters here. Martha reportedly described Meghan as having returned from the palace, but the meeting was at Highgrove House, the King's private country residence in Gloucestershire. That may sound like a minor wording issue, but in royal storytelling, places carry meaning. A palace sounds official, Highgrove sounds personal. A palace suggests access to the institution. Highgrove suggests a grandfather receiving family on private ground. If Meghan herself used the word palace, critics will say it enlarged the status of the meeting.
And Sykes then concluded there is an alternative route available to Meghan at this stage: disappear. Raise the children, which is what she has repeatedly said gives her the greatest joy. Stay off social media for 2 or 3 years or 5, then come back at 50 with something true to say and an honest accounting of what went wrong, and the public would give her a hearing. And he's sort of referring to the fact that Martha Stewart made this incredible comeback after going to prison, adding a very large public profile is a strange sort of asset. When things go wrong, it becomes a liability in direct proportion to everything it once bestowed on you. But the silver lining is that however bad...
If Martha used it loosely, it shows how easily royal nuance gets blurred once the story travels through American celebrity circles. Either way, the distinction is useful because it shows why the palace wanted the meeting kept private. The more a family visit is retold in shorthand, the more it begins to look like an official restoration. That is exactly the impression the king cannot afford to create unless the whole institution is prepared to support it. To be fair, the denial in People complicates the picture. A source who said they hosted the dinner and sat next to Meghan disputed Martha's version, saying Meghan did not discuss the European trip beyond a brief positive remark about the family having a good time. That should be included because it shows there is no settled transcript of the evening. Martha may have overheard something and interpreted it one way, another guest may have heard less and interpreted it differently. The dinner may have been larger, the conversation may have moved around the table, and one person can leave with a different impression from another. But the damage is not only factual, it is reputational. If people are willing to believe that Meghan would talk about a private meeting with the king, that belief itself becomes part of the problem. Trust is not destroyed only by proven betrayal. It can also be destroyed by a pattern that makes betrayal plausible. The Sussexes have spent years giving interviews, filming documentaries, publishing intimate details, correcting stories through sources, and turning personal pain into public narrative. After that, even a disputed dinner anecdote can feel like confirmation. People magazine's role makes the whole episode even more revealing. People is not normally treated by Sussex watchers as hostile territory. It has often been the kind of outlet where Meghan and Harry's side of a story can be presented warmly, carefully, and with plenty of sympathetic framing. So, for Martha Stewart's remark to detonate there, and then for another source to push back there.
She gutted that chick for all it was worth. She just put the knife in, eviscerated, got rid of the innards. I thought she was brilliant how she did it. And she got the point across. But you know, Dan, I don't know why anybody's surprised that Meghan is dining out on what happened with, and she's of course going to be bigging up and let's remember, the whole of the meeting with Harry was 47 minutes. Meghan wasn't there for most of it. But you can imagine how Meghan
creates a little media drama inside a usually friendly space. That is important because Meghan's public strategy has often depended on selected outlets smoothing the edges of a story. But here, the smoothing became part of the story. First came Martha's observation. Then came the rebuttal. Then came the question of who hosted the dinner, who heard what, and why a dinner in California was now being litigated in public. The denial may help Meghan with supporters, but it also keeps the episode alive. A private dinner becomes a media chain. That is the exact dynamic the palace fears. Even when no one leaks a palace memo, the social afterlife of a royal meeting can still become public drama. This is why Martha's second comment about Meghan's lifestyle career matters as much as the dinner comment. Martha was not just saying Meghan had spoken about the king, she was also quietly questioning Meghan's professional transformation.
Is now going to be going around saying about, when Harry's pa and I, the next thing is it's going to be 27 hours long and she kept the king waiting. But I mean, that was the whole purpose of the meeting, wasn't it? To re-gild her royal lily and to give her an opportunity to try to maybe spin the very tenuous connection that she has with the royal family.
Actress to royal to homemaking guru is not an impossible path, but it demands credibility at each step. If someone leaves royal life and then builds a domestic brand, the public will ask whether the brand comes from genuine skill or borrowed status. Does Meghan cook because she has a developed culinary point of view, or because cooking is now a soft, marketable frame for selling Montecito domesticity? Does she host because she understands hospitality, or because hosting lets her create an image of taste and warmth? Does she use founder language because there is a real enterprise with clear value, or because the title gives structure to a public reinvention that otherwise feels vague? Martha's genius is that she does not need to answer those questions fully. She simply points to the strange path and lets the audience do the rest. Martha Stewart's own life makes the critique more interesting. She has had humiliation, prison, public mockery, brand damage, and a comeback that would have ended many careers. Her second act worked because she returned with something real.
Well, it is, but Lady C, as Tom Sykes makes the point, you have been a guest at many of these aristocratic dinner parties for decades now, and there is a certain code when it comes to the royal family in the United Kingdom. But clearly that code doesn't exist in Hollywood. And so to hear about Meghan actually being so, how would you describe it? Being so gross, being so nouveau riche, I guess being so boastful.
Expertise, discipline, humor about herself, and a business that still had substance. She did not need to pretend she had never fallen. She made the full part of the story without letting it erase the work. That is why Tom Sykes' point about second acts is worth taking seriously. A large public profile can become a liability when things go wrong, because the same attention that once lifted you begins to magnify every misstep. But second acts are possible. The catch is that a second act usually requires silence before the return. It requires learning. It requires the public to feel that something has changed. Meghan's difficulty is that she seems to want the reward of a comeback without the retreat that makes a comeback believable. She is always present. Birthday clips, brand drops, interviews, family photos, dinner stories, television projects, and carefully placed counter briefings. There is no clean break, so there is no clean reset.
Well, actually, Dan, I don't think that the king is at all surprised, and I don't think he would be surprised. I think it's what he would expect of Meghan. And, that's why they have been very careful to make the point that the whole of the meeting was 47 minutes long, and that Meghan was kept waiting outside for much of it, and that she was only received for a part of the 47 minutes. So Meghan can spin it any way she...
That is the part of Martha's example Meghan should study most closely. Martha did not become powerful because everyone liked her. Many people did not. She became powerful because even critics believed she knew her subject. That kind of authority is surprisingly durable. It can survive mockery, parody, scandal, and even a prison sentence, because the underlying skill remains visible. A viewer may find Martha intimidating, old-fashioned, severe, or too perfect. But the viewer still assumes Martha knows how to set the table, cook the dish, plant the garden, organize the house, and run the business. Meghan has not yet earned that same assumption. Her lifestyle project is still interpreted through personality first and competence second. People ask what she is trying to prove, who she is trying to impress, which famous woman she is trying to resemble, and how much of the image is connected to royal status.
What did you make of what Martha Stewart said about her failure to take off as a lifestyle guru? I mean, I thought she was very kind, but we know she doesn't like her, seemingly just saying the transition just hasn't worked. Actress to princess to homemaking guru. She's right, isn't she?
Oh, I thought it was wonderful. I mean, she eviscerated her very elegantly, because, I mean, it's very difficult to make a transition from D-grade actress to A-grade princess. And
until the product becomes stronger than the persona, every recipe and candle will be judged as part of the Meghan story rather than as part of a real lifestyle authority. That is one reason the 45th birthday reaction was so unforgiving. Meghan's birthday content was meant to show fun, marriage, home, dogs, and lightness. Instead, many viewers saw effort. They saw a duchess performing youthfulness and domestic ease, while still carrying the baggage of titles, family estrangement, and commercial branding. The royal family did not publicly celebrate her birthday, which was predictable under the current practice of reserving official birthday posts largely for working royals. But the silence was still noticed. The absence of major public tributes from the kind of celebrity names once associated with the Sussex dream was also noticed. Again, none of that proves Meghan lacks private friends. Not everything meaningful happens online, but Meghan's own public strategy has taught people to read visibility as validation.
Then to make it from A-grade princess down to Z-grade influencer. And she's managed to do it. And I thought that Martha Stewart got the point across very elegantly, that Meghan has failed at everything. But she doesn't say it like that. She just says how difficult it is. And let's not forget that Meghan is always going on and on about how difficult her life is, and how difficult all the transitions were, and how difficult everything was. But Meghan doesn't say that when
the validation is muted, the silence becomes part of the story. A playful kitchen clip can become a referendum on status. A brand account wishing its own founder happy birthday can look less like corporate cheer and more like self-generated applause. This is where the Martha story and the birthday story connect. Both show Meghan trying to control a soft image. The happy wife, the relaxed hostess, the admired founder, the Duchess who still has royal access, the woman who can step into Martha Stewart territory and make it her own. But soft power is only soft when it feels effortless. If the public sees the machinery, the magic drains away. Martha's comment worked because it exposed machinery. It suggested that the royal reunion was not simply a private family moment, but potentially a talking point. It suggested that the homemaking turn was not a natural evolution.
Where Meghan basically had to celebrate herself, because the only people, Lady C, who really showed any public interest in her were Kelly J. Zajfan and Tracy Robbins, like two friends paid tribute. It was quite something, and everyone's just talking about how mortifying these videos are.
Couldn't happen to be a nicer, kinder, sweet. But look at her. She looks like
A difficult and possibly unconvincing career pivot. It reminded the audience that genuine lifestyle authority is not created by staging a table or posting a kitchen video. It is created by being believed. Harry's legal defeat against Associated Newspapers belongs in the same story because it is another example of public narrative meeting a harder test. Harry and several other claimants, including Doreen Lawrence, Sir Elton John, David Furnish, Elizabeth Hurley, Sadie Frost, and Simon Hughes, accused Associated Newspapers, publisher of the Daily Mail, titles of unlawful information gathering. The allegations were serious: phone hacking, landline tapping, bugging, corrupt payments, and the use of private investigators. Associated Newspapers denied the claims. In July 2026, Mr. Justice Nicklin dismissed all the claims, ruling that the claimants had not proved their case.
So why did not the King and the Queen congratulate Meghan on her 45th birthday? Surely that would have been the most natural thing to do, because let's remember how important Meghan is. Oh, I forgot. She's not that important. That's why they didn't.
Lady C, of course, this is a difficult week for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, because we know the financial pressure they're under and the extra pressure that is putting on their relationship. And then
that does not mean every past tabloid practice was honourable. British newspapers have a long and ugly history of intrusion, and Harry has won or settled other legal claims against other publishers. But this specific case against Associated Newspapers failed. And it failed in a way that raised deep questions about evidence, strategy, witnesses, and the danger of building a case around dramatic claims that cannot be proven to the court's standard. Gavin Burrows became central to that collapse. He was a private investigator whose disputed statements have been used in the broader controversy around alleged unlawful gathering. In court, he said admissions made in his name were false, and he claimed he had not signed the statement that contained them. He described the disputed confession as fiction and said the claimants and their lawyers had been misled. The claimants' team challenged him and disputed his account, and his credibility was attacked from different directions. But the damage was severe.
New evidence that has emerged out of Prince Harry's court case versus the Daily Mail, which you have been completely across. We shared some of your reporting earlier in the week here on Outspoken, has been potentially devastating, because I would argue, Lady C, if this was any normal human being, politician, celebrity, who had basically been exposed for going into a court case like this, knowing that you were relying on evidence that had been falsified, you would be facing a massive financial ramification.
The judge later said he could not reliably conclude that Burrows had said what appeared in the disowned statement, and reports described him as comprehensively undermined as a witness. In plain language, the case had a witness problem, and once the witness problem became clear, the wider narrative looked far less secure. A claim can sound powerful in a documentary, an interview, a campaigning article, or a press release. In court, it needs admissible evidence, corroboration, timelines, documents, and witnesses who survive cross-examination. Harry's mission to hold the press accountable ran straight into that difference. This is where the commentary around the case has become explosive, but it is important to keep the legal line clear. Critics of Harry's litigation have gone much further than the judgment itself, arguing that the collapse raises moral questions about how the case was assembled, who encouraged the claimants, who funded the research, what was known about disputed evidence, and who should bear the enormous costs.
Of course, we heard for the first time from Gavin Burrows, the man who Prince Harry had been relying on, and he claims it was all made up and that Harry is now part of the biggest legal scam of all time. So, Lady C, fascinated you in your analysis of this, but first, can I just show you, in case you missed it, what Gavin...
Harry's defenders can argue that he was trying to expose wrongdoing in a press culture that has harmed many people, and that one failed case does not erase the broader phone hacking history. Both points can be true, in part, but the judgment still matters. The court dismissed the claims against associated newspapers, and the publisher moved to recover costs. That is not just a public relations setback. It is a practical, financial, and reputational blow. When a prince wages a moral campaign in court and loses, he does not simply lose an argument, he loses some of the authority with which he made the argument. The money question is not a side issue either. Reports after the judgment described potentially enormous legal costs, with associated newspapers seeking recovery after defending the case. For most public figures, that would be terrifying enough. For Harry, it carries a second layer because any serious financial pressure immediately becomes a royal family question. Will he pay personally?
Gavin alleges that what he says were made-up assertions were used to convince the unwitting Harry and the other celebrities to sign up to the lawsuit. He claims to have been so outraged he joined forces with the papers against the prince.
I phoned Mail's Legal. I think they were a bit surprised to hear from me. And I said, no, it really is me. And I thought that would be the end of it. But they're so greedy. And I suppose you could say that the legal team were too scared to go back. They couldn't really go back to the claimants and say they lied, could they? All claimants have been duped. But
will insurance cover part of it? Will the other claimants share the burden? Will there be private family help? Will the public ever know? None of those answers should be assumed. But the speculation itself is damaging because it revives the old image of Harry wanting independence until the bill arrives. That may be unfair in the details, but it is potent as perception. The Sussex brand was built on freedom, self-sufficiency, moral purpose, and escape from palace control. A crushing legal bill does not fit that image. It makes independence look expensive and crusading look risky. For Harry, the legal defeat is especially damaging because he has made the fight against the press central to his public identity. He has described the British tabloids as a destructive force in his life, his mother's life, and Meghan's life. That emotional history is real, but emotional truth is not the same as legal proof. The court does not decide whether Harry feels wounded.
And thank God you did say it earlier this week, because the mainstream media aren't really going there about Gavin Burrows, about Byline Investigates and Byline Times and how they are effectively a criminal operation. But Lady C, when it comes to Meghan Markle, what she cares about is not so much the reputation, but the money. And surely the judge in this case now should be rewarding all of those millions to Prince Harry's rivals at the Daily Mail. And surely Prince Harry's insurance company should be saying, well, you knew.
Decides whether specific articles and specific alleged methods can be proven unlawful. That is why the Associated Newspapers case hurts him more than an ordinary celebrity lawsuit would. It challenges the way he tells the story of his crusade. If he wins, he is the prince who stood up to the press and proved systemic wrongdoing. If he loses, he becomes the prince who accused, escalated, spent, and exposed himself to costs without delivering proof. That is a brutal difference. And it feeds the wider perception that Harry and Meghan often confuse narrative force with evidence. There is a tragic dimension to that, because Harry's anger at the press did not come from nowhere. His mother's life and death were shaped by press obsession. His youth unfolded in front of cameras and headlines. His relationships were hunted and dissected. Meghan was subjected to intense coverage, some of it cruel, some of it racially charged.
This is a criminal enterprise. It's been an attempt to extort, to blackmail, and to pervert the course of justice. And it's all there in black and white. Of course, Mr. Justice Nick Clegg has the ability and the right to refer this matter to the police. The fact that he has not yet done so doesn't mean that he will not do so in the future, because there are many high-stakes matters involved.
Some of it plainly invasive. Those realities explain why Harry wants to fight. But explanation is not vindication. A person can have a real grievance and still choose the wrong case, the wrong evidence, the wrong advisors, or the wrong strategy. That is what makes this moment so consequential. Harry's broader critique of press culture may contain truth, but the failed Associated Newspapers case gives his critics an opening to dismiss not only the case, but the entire crusade. That is the danger of overreach. If you make the largest possible accusation and fail to prove it, people may stop listening, even when your smaller, more provable points deserve attention. There is a parallel between the dinner party problem and the legal problem. Both involve the same question: what happens when a claim travels outside the controlled space where it was first made? At a friendly table, a remark can sound harmless. In People magazine, it becomes a trust issue. In a campaign setting, an allegation can sound righteous.
And so obviously he's going to take things step by step by step. And I can well see the merit of not at this juncture asking the police to investigate. But there is no doubt that it has been a criminal enterprise. And I've been saying this for some time, and I have invited David Sherborne and Angeli Sanjani and Harry and the rest of them, especially Sadie Frost and Sir Simon Hughes, who is a barrister and had to know better.
In court, it becomes a test of evidence. Meghan's reported conversation about the king may have been innocent, misheard, or exaggerated. But once it travelled through Martha Stewart into the public sphere, it became a symbol of discretion. Burroughs' disputed statements may have looked powerful when they supported a broader narrative against the Mail. But once challenged in court, they became a symbol of evidential weakness. In both cases, the Sussex story ran into the same wall. You cannot control how a story behaves once it leaves your preferred frame. This is exactly why Buckingham Palace will remain cautious. Charles may want a relationship with his son and grandchildren. He may feel the pull of age, illness, regret, and family love. But the institution has to ask a colder question. What does every private opening become once it enters the Sussex ecosystem? Does a family meeting become a dinner anecdote? Does a short visit become evidence of reconciliation?
Or the Max Mosley estate. I mean, it is an absolute scandal. And I would be very surprised if nothing is done. Let's put it that way. But I well understand why things need to be done in a very measured way, because the fact of the matter is this is not only one of the most flagrant blackmail attempts and extortion shakedowns done through the legal system, but done so publicly and so flagrantly.
Does a charitable event become a platform for royal rehabilitation? Does an invitation become the first step toward half in, half out by another name? The palace cannot prevent all speculation, but it can limit the amount of material available for speculation. That is why no photographs from Highgrove mattered. That is why official silence around details mattered. And that is why a disputed comment from Martha Stewart still caused such unease. It suggested that even when the palace withholds material, the material may still be created socially. William's position is likely even firmer. Charles can separate the private father from the public sovereign because he is emotionally invested in both roles. William is the future sovereign, watching the boundary problem take shape. He has seen Harry criticize the institution, expose family tensions, attack the press, fight the government over security, and now lose a major case against a newspaper publisher. He has seen Meghan
enterprise so much as simply going to be the beneficiaries of it. And let's remember, they tried to shake down associated newspapers in settlement terms to the tune of millions of pounds as well. But where Harry is definitely guilty is he perjured himself in court. He lied. He plain, straight up front lied. He lied about that he never sent texts or whatever it was. I don't remember exactly, but he was lying.
To build a lifestyle brand while retaining the Duchess title and drawing energy from royal proximity. From William's perspective, the issue is not whether Harry should ever see his father. The issue is whether Harry and Meghan can be trusted not to convert proximity into leverage. Martha Stewart's tiny anecdote, fair or not, will not reassure him. Neither will a legal campaign that ends in defeat and enormous costs. William's monarchy will almost certainly be less sentimental about this than Charles's. It will be built around sharper distinctions: working, royal or private relative, public duty or private life, institutional role or personal brand. The irony is that Meghan may still have a path to a better second act, but it would require the one thing she seems least willing to do: disappear long enough for the public to stop reacting to every move as part of a campaign. Tom Sykes' suggestion that she step back for several years, raise the children, and return later with something true to say is harsh but not irrational.
So let us see what happens down the line, because the fact of the matter is it would be a national disgrace if they are simply allowed to get away with flagrantly extorting, perverting the course of justice, perjuring themselves, lying about timelines, etc., etc. I mean, when you stop to think of it, this is truly one of the most enormous legal scandals to have ever taken place.
Martha Stewart's comeback proves that the public can forgive and even admire reinvention when it feels earned. But reinvention cannot be announced every week. It has to happen somewhere away from the performance. If Meghan truly wants to be taken seriously as a lifestyle figure, she needs more than elegant jars, candles, kitchen clips, and friendly magazine coverage. She needs visible competence, patience, and a reason for people to believe she knows what she is teaching. If she wants to be treated as a private mother, she needs to stop using the atmosphere of private motherhood as brand texture. If she wants royal trust, she needs to stop giving the impression that royal contact becomes social capital. Harry's version of that same advice would be to choose one battlefield and accept the cost of it. If he wants to be a private man in California, then the legal crusades, royal pressure campaigns, and public demands for institutional validation have to slow down. If he wants to be a public reformer, he has to accept that courts require proof and that losing has consequences. If he wants reconciliation with his father, he has to show that private contact stays private. If he wants his children to know Britain, he has to find a way to make those visits about the children, rather than about the Sussexes' continuing argument with the state. Right now, too many tracks are running at once: family reconciliation, media litigation, lifestyle branding, celebrity access, security grievances, and royal relevance. The result is not strength, it is noise. That is why Martha Stewart's comment cut deeper than a long royal essay might have. It reduced the entire Sussex problem to a social scene. A dinner, a woman who had just been near the king, and another woman who noticed she was talking. Whether the detail was disputed or not, the image stayed. It stayed because it captured the fear at the heart of the royal family's Sussex dilemma. Can they be invited in without the invitation becoming content? Can they be trusted with private warmth without turning it into public proof? Can they build independent lives without constantly returning to the royal well? Can Meghan become a lifestyle authority without the Duchess title doing most of the early work? Can Harry expose real press abuse without overreaching into cases that collapse? These are not small questions. They are the questions that decide whether the Sussexes can ever be seen as serious again. Martha Stewart knows something about seriousness. Her public image can be witty, icy, glamorous, and intimidating, but beneath it is work. Recipes tested, gardens planted, rooms styled, businesses built, mistakes paid for, comebacks earned. That is why her shade, if we want to call it that, felt so effective. It came from someone who understands that lifestyle is not just soft lighting and good napkins. It is authority, it is repetition, it is knowing what you are doing well enough that the audience trusts you. Meghan's problem is that she wants the feeling of Martha's authority without the long apprenticeship, and she wants the glow of royal trust without the silence that royal trust demands. So the lesson from this week is not simply that Martha Stewart embarrassed Meghan Markle. It is that two systems of status collided. In one system, status comes from being visible, discussed, photographed, and associated with powerful names. In the other, status comes from being invited into rooms and proving you can leave the room intact. Meghan has been trying to operate in the first system while borrowing prestige from the second. Harry has been trying to fight institutions from outside while still being protected by the aura of being the king's son. The Martha story and the Mail case both show the limits of that approach. At a certain point, visibility stops helping. At a certain point, the question becomes not who is talking about you, but who still trusts you. And in royal life, trust is the one currency no brand can manufacture overnight.